Welcome, everyone, to Rhythm Encounter Music of the Year 2015. I'm your host, Stephen Meyerink. Tail us on the boards. I cannot believe this is the fourth time we are doing Music of the Year. That is crazy. This is only the third time we've done the podcast as Rhythm Encounter. But we have a big old cast of people, a big old cast of music, and I'm just really excited to get to the end so I can pick the final song and pick a really good one, and I'm thinking about it, and it's really hard now. But anyway, joining me today is my co-host.
Hi guys, Caitlin Argyros, Leon Cazzaro on the boards, and I want to talk about some music. I don't know about you guys.
I do as well. Also joining us to talk about music is our co-host.
Hey, I'm Mike Salbato, Mike on the boards.
And we also have a gaggle of other RPG fan vets around. You guys aren't the new kids on the block anymore. You're all boring and old. Sorry. Aww. Speaking of boring and old, Peter, introduce yourself.
I guess I sort of had that one coming. Hi, I'm Peter. I have Fury on the boards. You may hear me from such shows as Retro Encounter and this music show.
That's an awesome list of shows, I must say.
I think it covers a very wide range of topics. And
we also have, Peter, you're awesome, but we have some more people. Mike Sollosi.
Hi, I'm Mike Sollosi. I'm Monsoon on the boards, and I was old and boring before joining RPG Fan, so I'm just ahead of the game.
That's true, but you're not the Monsoon for Metal Gear Revengeance, so...
No, I'm not.
But if you wanted to be, we could call Caitlin Sundowner, and I could be the other guy who talks about memes.
This sounds like an excellent fanfic in the making, but there's one more person here on the podcast, isn't there?
Yes, he is the lightning, the wind reborn.
That's your cue.
That's your cue, Marcos.
Hey, Marcos Gaspar, Wild Armor on the boards. And speaking of old people, if anyone gets that championship or title, it's me. My avatar's Tella. Get out.
Is your avatar Tella? It looks like a hot dog.
Looks like a corgi.
No, on the forums it's Tella.
Yeah.
But right now it is a corgi dressed as a hot dog, and I laugh internally every time I see it. It rules.
Well, I guess you got me there.
We do have you there, but we also have you here. Oh man, that was a great segue. So, at this point, I think everyone should be familiar with how we do Music of the Year. We have our RPG Fan editors together, and you gentlemen are joining us today with your picks. Mike's, Caitlin, and mine are going to be coming at a later time. We'll have a few guests in between there, I believe, as well. But let's not beat around the bush. Let's start talking about music, because we are going to be doing this for a while. I think, Marcos, you picked our first track. This is the first track of Music of the Year 2015, so all the pressure is on you to make it one that truly introduces us to this whole new world of music that came out in 2015. What did you pick, Marcos?
Ooh, I'm getting the tingles here. For myself, I chose a Z5 Mirror from the soundtrack to Xenoblade Chronicles X, composer Sawano, and I think you guys are going to like this.
Next up, I believe, Mike Sollosi, you had a pick, yes?
Right. I picked Death by Glamour from Undertale. It's one of the boss battles in the second half of the game, and it's a pretty interesting song, I think. I'm looking forward to talking about it with you soon.
I am as well. I'm also looking forward to getting there in the game.
I'll try to provide some non-spoiler context, but yeah, you'll hear about it soon.
Speaking of non-spoiler context, his nickname in high school, Peter, what did you pick for your song?
The song I picked was White Thunder from Final Fantasy Type 0 HD.
I am giving you horrible introductions for everything, and I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what that title says about me, but
White Thunder.
But it's a really good song, and let's talk about it. Let's listen to it and then talk about it.
Let us hit the skies of Mira and not suffer from death by glamour as White Thunder crashes down. Let's go ahead and take a listen to our first block.
So yeah, that was Mira. Great piece. I love it. And reason why I chose it because it's a very aggressive piece, especially in the beginning when you get that very aggressive percussion together with that sitar. It's a very attractive, exotic feeling to it. It's very dramatic, and I think one of my favorite things about that track, just in general, of any of the tracks from the Xenoblade Chronicles X soundtrack, is any type of singing, whether it's like a male or female solo voice or just a choir, because you get smashed with that like wherever you go. And I love especially at 153 on the song where that female voice enters in and just wails these beautiful notes, and just it sends like chills down my spine. And it's just a beautiful piece. The beginning, then you'll notice like later it'll split into like different portions where it'll cover other places of the game. And I think that's good because it offers an excellent snapshot of the game and the world of Mira, giving it a very beauty, exotic nature, but also posing a haunting danger looming above everyone as well.
Yeah.
That sums it up pretty well.
Yeah, I really latched on to the. You mentioned a couple times that it seems exotic, but that really aggressive percussion at the beginning, I adored because I love taiko drums. I was in marching bands and drum lines for many years, and like there's even like a call in the first minute that sounds almost like a break in a Bhangra song or something. It's really aggressive and fast moving, gets your pulse going. It's I have not played Xenoblade Chronicles X. I don't know the context of this song at all, but I thought it was a really, really cool track.
Well, the context is actually an interesting point. It's the reason why I like this track and this first portion, especially to start off our Music of the Year coverage, because this plays right at the beginning of the game when you really get your first real good look at what Mira looks like, and the first area where you're in. Depending on how long you've been idling around, it might be nighttime, but the sun comes up, the mists recede, and you see this vast landscape and lots of crazy animals while this song is playing. And the exotic nature of it kind of fits the idea of you're on this foreign planet with some weird-looking creatures.
You're stuck on a whole different planet.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I don't want to sound cliche, but this world sucks.
But the music does not.
It just hits you in the face. Like that's the scene that it plays, and the song itself just hits you in the face with how strange and utterly alien this place is, but also like kind of gets you pumped for the adventure you're in for. Like, it's a really exciting song, I think, that it just underscores like everything this game is all about. And I wrote down too that I think Xenoblade soundtracks, it shouldn't work, but it totally does. It's such a bizarre mix of genres and vocalists and all this other like totally off the wall stuff that somehow comes together into this really, really interesting soundscape that's a ton of fun to listen to.
I think it works very well in context. You know, when I first heard it, I was not sure it would be as compelling as the first game's soundtrack, but A, they're sort of doing something different with it, and B, I really think it suits the style of the game, because the game does have this sort of weird, quasi-dark, but also sort of goofy sci-fi style that I think the music really suits well.
Yeah.
And as the main theme for the planet, I think the Mirror track is fantastic. You hear phrases of this and a lot of the other tracks in the game. I wish this was, the main theme for one of the areas, this actual version with these vocals. But as a main theme that the rest of the soundtrack draws from, I think this is a really strong piece.
Yeah, I eventually started growing to like a lot of this music that I wasn't sure about at first, but I think it definitely, now that I've played a lot of the game, it definitely works better in context.
Yeah.
You get it more, and I wasn't sure I would. I didn't really know how this stuff is going to work, because it's very... Well, it's not what you expect, especially coming off the first game. And I don't know who among you, when we're recording this, has looked at our games of the year, but the reader's choice for best sound of the year was actually this game, and I was really shocked, because one thing we've always talked about was we thought that this soundtrack was not going to really sit well with people, but that was what people liked most of all the music this year. So
I'm
that's pretty
so
impressive.
proud of
Yeah.
all of you guys. So proud.
Bravo, all of you.
I definitely have heard my fair share of people that find the music utterly repugnant.
Yeah.
But, they're wrong, so it's no big deal.
Yeah.
It's basically it's like the rest of the game. Like everyone was expecting like, hey, I want a sequel that's just like the first one, and nothing in this is really like the first one, except the combat, I guess. But the music is not what you expect, and the story, and it's just really different. But I'm glad a bunch of people liked it.
This song does not make it any easier to me avoid buying a Wii U.
Do it.
No.
It's worth it.
I got bills, man. I got a mortgage. I can't do it. But
What's
yeah,
Argyros?
every single track I hear from Xenoblade Chronicles X sort of reminds me that this is not the same as its predecessor, but doesn't make it any less interesting or crazy seeming. Like, I'm still not sure what to think of that game, having not played it and having heard people talk about it a lot. But its soundtrack, I would not say it's as bad as Steven's former friends say it is, because obviously you're not friends with those people anymore.
Well, speaking of awesome music in an awesome or unexpected package, I don't know, both perhaps. Mike, you want to talk about your pick from Undertale?
Yeah,
Fills him with
unexpected is the
determination.
word. Yeah, unexpected is the word, because I don't think anyone could have predicted how successful and popular Undertale would end up being, like, say, early in 2015. But
And of course, now that it's popular, it is also popular to hate Undertale.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that'll happen with any popular thing, naturally. But I did play Undertale and like it in 2015, and the music really stood out to me, because sometimes it's, unequivocally, obviously, an 8-bit or 16-bit homage to something, but then it has they make some really weird decisions, and the music goes really weird places, like the Temmie Village song and the Spook Wave stuff that the Sad Ghost plays in his apartment.
Well, what's also interesting is that Toby Fox, the creator-composer,
Yeah.
Made use of sound fonts from a lot of classic games. There's, one song uses the Castlevania sound font from Super Nintendo. One uses the Earthbound one. There's, I believe, FF6.
The music box from sound font from Chrono Trigger makes its appearance in some late game sad music. It's so weird that sometimes he uses some sound libraries that are clearly, beyond the purview of 8-bit music, and sometimes it's stuff that's really obviously living comfortably in a 16-bit SNES soundtrack. But now going back to the song at hand, this is Death by Glamour, which is the second half of a boss battle that's late in the game. Most of the boss battles have a first part 1 boss battle and a part 2, and this is sort of the significant part 2 of a later boss battle. It's like the saxophone in the last minute of the song, it doesn't sound like a real saxophone. It sounds like a weird video game 1995 saxophone. And like how self-aware Toby Fox is, drawing from all these different sources and having something that sounds video gamey and not true to life and not strictly homage there's a lot of cool tricks all over the Undertale soundtrack, but I like this track in particular because of how it switches up on us and how energetic it is, and the boss battle is sort of showbiz themed, so it almost feels like you're in like a dance show or something. It fits, and it's weird, and I really like Death by Glamour.
It kind of sounds to me like when I was listening to it, and maybe it was just the word glamour in the title, but I was getting this faux glam rock vibe from it, and it was interesting how, despite the amount of synth that this song is using, it still comes through into a really coherent melody throughout, and much like an older rock song. And yeah, I really like this track. It made me curious as to what was going on in the background of it.
If you had played this boss battle, you'd understand there's a lot going on. It keeps you on your toes.
It's on my to-do list.
I'm totally not playing the game as we speak.
I see you in my Steam friends list right now, Steven.
But the game, there's a lot of emphasis put on the music because there's a lot of real instruments in the soundtrack as well. There's piano, there's xylophone.
There's real piano and guitar being played sometimes, and sometimes it's clearly a video game sound library.
Yeah, and that creates a really interesting, very modern sound, despite combining very old style sounds with more realistic sounds. Toby Fox has actually, I believe he's even said too, that some people look at Undertale and they go, "Oh, ugly! I don't want to play that." And that was my reaction too. Although I do think the game gets prettier as it goes along, but he said that he spent more time and money on the music. And as a person who is, we're on a Music of the Year podcast. I think we should really appreciate that because this is a game with a really, really carefully executed soundtrack. This is not just I wrote music and put it in the game. The way the music is implemented is very interesting. Different playthroughs, characters will have themes that become a different theme depending on the way you're playing through the game, which is how you get to some of the most popular songs in the game. And Death by Glimmer is actually not one of my favorite songs in the soundtrack. I do like it because I think the whole soundtrack has a lot of personality, and I wonder if maybe we'll see anything else from it later. But again, like you said, the way the music sort of ties into the character it's associated with, or the sequence it's associated with, is very clear to me, even with only a few hours in the game, because they're all themes. They are not just songs, and that's the strong melodies and everything I think are meant to elicit feelings of whichever character they're associated with.
Yeah, listening to this song gives me flashbacks to the when I was trying to do a low damage level 1 pacifist run of this game.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I actually I wouldn't recommend that for a first playthrough. But I mean a lot of people do that anyway. But
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you won't be able to get the pacifist ending because some pacifist required stuff can only be done in the second playthrough.
Bastards.
Yeah, right. But the song serves the personality of the boss and the action taking place in the boss battle, and it's very clear if you pay attention to the music as you're playing that a lot of thought went into the execution and placement of the Undertale's music. It's I really recommend buying that soundtrack.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that comes about when you have one person in total creative control of the project. That can backfire, but in this case, I think it's clear that one person's mindset was behind how this music was placed and used and written.
Yeah, everything I've heard has been awesome, including this track. I love how it starts, really. It's got such a catchy opening. So,
and that I think that piano and that 4 on the floor danceable beat is the only really persistent thing in the song. It builds and then voices come and go until it really drops into that dope saxophone towards the end.
But I thought that was really cool how it starts off with just the one line and then things get added like successively throughout the track to build on its complexity, but it always sort of keeps that sort of basic melodic line in the background. Which is, I like it when tracks do that, start with something simple and just build. You don't always have to have, a verse and a refrain and a bridge and all those weird things. I like it when they do that, but simple stuff like this that sort of just adds complexity over time can work too. Which reminds me of another track that we listened to in this block. I wonder what track that could be.
Take it away, White Thunder.
Something
Type 0. I think the thing about Final Fantasy Type 0, having played, since we finally had the chance to play it this year, is that it's a little beyond itself. Like, the music is probably the best part of the game, I would say, and it tries to tackle some really heavy themes, but it's kind of constrained by the game itself. And I think nowhere is this more apparent than with the way the 4 nations in this game are handled. Because the two main ones, Suzaku, Rubrum, and Rubrum is what they called it in the US, and Milites, both have very distinct themes. White Thunder is one of the tracks for Milites, and the words that I wrote down for them are regality and industry. I think this song it kind of encapsulates that this is an ancient culture, very steeped in tradition and kind of a very warlike society that has been brought into the modern age. And considering their big thing is technology and weapons of war and mechanization, I think kind of the way the song contrasts between the electric guitar and the chorus, I think, is a really interesting mix for how this country is portrayed. There's also a scene at one point in the game, kind of near the middle of the game, where you actually are on standby in Milites, and it's one of the few times in the game where you actually get a glimpse into one of the other cultures in the game that isn't just your home base. And I don't know, that's the other thing. I think Type Zero's music and themes are a little beyond the structure of the game itself, because you don't really get a lot of like quiet moments like that, where you just kind of get to learn more about it. But that's just where I got the idea that that's where I think that's kind of what this song ends up representing, in my head at least.
Yeah, it's an interesting... Sorry.
Good.
I was going to say an interesting point about one of the themes you wrote down being military, because it does sound kind of like a rock military march almost.
Yeah.
Like it has that sort of repetitive, like the basic theme again is always played there sort of in the background for a good portion of the track, and it gets built on, which kind of fits as sort of like something you would march by. And the thing I actually found the most interesting about this is I actually went in, I used a keyboard to verify this, because it's been a while since I've had to judge intervals but by listening to them. But with the main theme, it's kind of cool how they build on the main melodic line, like with each pass through, and the first intervals that you hear right off the bat is like a fifth, and then the next major one is a fourth, and then the last one is a third. And I thought that was a really cool thing that they did. Eventually at the end you have like almost like a full chord of sorts being played with these different intervals. I thought that was a really cool feature. It's not something that I hear in a lot of video game music, but it's a cool feature to be sure.
Definitely.
I also find it interesting. I think you're right that the game sort of reaches beyond itself. And I wrote that in my review too. I think it's a really interesting game that's trying to do a lot of things that it doesn't always succeed at, which is why I'd like to see, a Type 02 or a Type 1 where Tabata and the team have a chance to sort of expand on those themes with a little bit more budget, because again, this is originally a PSP game that they had so much license to do weird stuff with it because it was not, this big budget AAA console game. And so I agree. I think the music is actually very sophisticated. I would not disagree that it's probably the strongest part of the game, because it's clear there was a sophisticated mindset behind a lot of the way the game was created, even if the gameplay couldn't keep up with it. Mm-hmm. And that's to say the music is very thematic, and I think this absolutely shows in this track as well, like you were saying, which is all a really roundabout way of saying I hope there's a sequel.
Yeah, I think it's a reprise of an earlier track that plays during background conversations with Militesi soldiers, but that version is a lot softer. And this one is, I think it's specific to a certain character, actually, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. I haven't played it since March.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Cool. I dig it. Good selections, gentlemen. I think we should move on to the next block. What say ye? Yees. Yees. Not yees as in ease, but yees as in ye-alls.
Well, I mean, you say ease, but the next track, I think, is from the Falcom sound team.
Ooh, smooth, and I bet you picked it. That's how you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the first track of the next block is Hazy Moon from Tokyo Xanadu, which was a 2015 game in Japan and is a yet-to-be-determined game in other regions.
We should keep our fingers crossed on that one.
I've been keeping my fingers crossed on that one since I saw the first trailers for the game.
Yeah, you actually linked it to me earlier, and I ended up listening to some music. It's got some, I would say, some really solid music, and also some very Falcom music, which I use as a sort of backhanded compliment.
When I hear it sounds like Falcom, I take it entirely as a compliment.
Yeah, that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
I understand where people might swing the other way, but I don't. So,
yeah, well, Three Doors Down sounds like Three Doors Down, too.
Sure.
So.
Maybe we should save it for after we play the track. So, who has the next one?
Peter.
That would be me. And I picked something a little different for this one. This is an original song that is about a game. It's Ciri's song, Lady of Worlds. It's a song dedicated to The Witcher 3 by Miracle of Sound.
He's a witcher. Why does his hair look like that? Marcos, what's your track?
My track comes from the game Shining Resonance. Hasn't come out here in America, sadly, but the track's name is Kirisaku Ungeki. That's the best I can do for you.
Hey, you did fine.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I would continue talking about these and saying devil's advocate-y type comments, but first, let's go ahead and take a listen to Hazy Moon, Ciri's song Lady of Worlds, and Kirisaku Ongeki.
present everywhere, like back in smoldering hair, my influence. another turn, another piece to shun, gauntlet of frost to run, no difference. Back and forth on the pendulum, swinging hard towards the outside, smash the walls of the box and run, overcoming the confines.
Time and space on the frailest veil, frozen cold in the static, blooded blades under hatred's sails, tearing out through the fabric.
The shimmer of white skies, I spin to and fro, a flicker of wild eyes, gives psychic control. The shimmer of white skies, a legacy leashed in my cries, shall rain over bitter white skies. I pay the debt, muse to another's soul, heir to another's wrongs, unwanted ground. Dance on the wings, through space and time I swirl, the lady of the worlds, don't hold me down. Back and forth on the pendulum, swinging hard towards the outside, smash the walls of the blocks and run, overcoming the confines.
Wake the wolf with the distant roar, strands of ash separated, to entwine on a misty shore, troubled lives ever faded.
The shimmer of white skies, I spin to and fro, a flicker of wild eyes, gives psychic control. The shimmer of white skies, the legacy reached in my cries, shall rain over bitter white skies.
Weave these strands of ash together. Warm our hands in the embers of time. The shimmer of white skies, she spins to and fro, a flicker of wild eyes. She's losing control, the shimmer of white skies. I'm haunted at night by her cry. Yeah, I'm frozen cold.
The shimmer of white skies, I spin to and fro, a flicker of wild eyes, gives psychic control. The shimmer of white skies, a world I no longer define, shall rain over bitter white skies.
Swinging hard towards the outside, smash
Persona 3 called it wants its soundtrack back. But
Persona 3 called it wants its entire look back. I mean, Tokyo Xanadu is set in a high school with high school students with superpowers fighting demons at night. There's a lot of Persona 3 DNA in Tokyo Xanadu. And
I don't know if
say
you guys have played Cold Steel at all, but Cold Steel is literally just Persona 4 with a different cast.
Yeah, for some reason, Persona 3 and 4 came out 6-7 years ago, and now there's a zillion RPGs set at Japanese-style high schools.
You know,
What do you know?
I'm totally okay with that though, because this song and this game it's just like Ys and Persona just had a really, really epic night out, and this is the result of their union. And it's
Their love
glorious.
child.
Did you say it's the E's knees?
It's the Ys knees. It has Adol's red.
Wow.
It has
okay,
Adol-
when you go ahead.
It has Adol's red hair and Midado's like wondrously thin, pale frame.
All right, well, if we can continue this awkward Ys and Persona analogy, it's like two of my best friends that would be really great together finally hooked up and started dating, and that is what Tokyo Xanadu is.
Well said.
I love Ys. I love Persona. I've probably talked about them on podcasts before, and I've been excited for Persona 5 as well. But for Tokyo Xanadu, as soon as I saw the first couple gameplay trailers, so I also paid attention to the soundtrack when it came out in October, and man, it is super dope. It's like Stephen mentioned before the songs played. You can hear Falcom Sound Team JDK all over this soundtrack. But it's a little Persona flavored, a little bit more urban sounding, a little sort of dancey trancy. But it is so cool, and Hazy Moon is just such a smooth song. I've listened to that at the gym probably 30 times the past 60 days, and yeah, I really like everything in it from like how the percussion's sort of bright throughout, but it's a little bit more understated in its melody and counter melody. The flute sounds great. The guitar break towards the middle sounds great. I think it's a really cool song.
I was joking a little bit when I said that it sounds like Falcom. When I say that, I'm sort of playfully ribbing it. Falcom has a huge variety of styles they do. It's not like one Falcom song is all the same.
Right. Yeah.
I think there are hallmarks that different musicians at Sound Team JDK can pull off quite well. And I do think that sometimes that leads to, and even with like Yoko Shimomura, who I love, sometimes that quintessential style leads to tracks that are clearly filler. And I do think, despite the feverish praise the JDK band gets, they have a lot of, this is very good filler, but it's still filler. And then they have the heavy hitting tracks that are really great. That said, this song here, I really like the tone and the style in it. It really does elicit the kind of atmosphere I would think from its title. And it does, I don't know if I would say, I know Peter made a joke, Persona 3 wants its music back. I'm just not sure I agree with that assessment. I mean, I know it's a joke, but...
Peter, if you, that statement holds up a lot better with other tracks, like, some of the tracks of Hanging Around at School in the Morning sound like they were ripped straight from Persona 3.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
the
school tracks in Cold Steel also sound like they are very
Yeah.
Persona-inspired.
And I was
probably
mostly
throw-
kidding.
Oh, okay, but
I do think Hazy, like I do think the song has a unique feel to it that is distinctly like Falcom. Distinctly Falcom. What does that even mean? But it sounds like its own thing. But I think
rock
given
violins.
yeah,
Like
it-
Falcom Jazz, this track in particular, though.
it's very smooth. Like if that's a word that can be used to describe music, then that is what I am
Oh yeah,
using
totally.
to describe this track.
Can only be used to describe chocolate milk.
Or whiskey.
Whiskey.
Mm,
Don't-
I don't really
I'm-
like Travis
I'm
Kelce.
I'm not gonna make the joke. I just no.
well, yeah. So it's a cool song. I didn't know this when I first listened to it, but Marcos mentioned to me off air that it plays during I think it's a Japanese park at night. Is what you
Interesting.
told me? Is that right? Is that right, man?
Yeah, it's like one of those dungeons. It's like a forestry kind of park-like area. And
So like a wooded urban area, but at night.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way I could try. I'm pretty sure there's a better way of describing it. Or maybe I'm just incorrect and I'm just fooling the rest of you.
We won't
Hey, no one will
know.
know until the game comes out.
Yeah.
Keep our fingers crossed.
My fingers have been crossed for months now. It's really awkward trying to type, actually. My fingers have been crossed.
We're all hoping our official Falcom translators Xseed will lay their hands upon this, but they seem to be quite busy with a million other Falcom games right now, so who knows?
Yes.
Not a bad
I'm
thing,
in the
though.
middle of playing 2 Trails games right now, with no end in sight. Okay, well, the end is in sight, but I'll be playing these for a lot of hours, okay?
It's quite far away.
Speaking of games you'll be playing for a lot of hours,
Oh, boy.
Or not, as
Oh.
the case may be. Because I haven't played The Witcher 3, yet I still chose a song that's about The Witcher 3, because
I haven't played Tokyo Xanadu either, so yeah, you're fine.
but I love this artist. Miracle Sound used to work for the Escape. Gav used to work for the Escapist. He's an Irish guy, really talented at mixing together all these songs. Before The Witcher 3 came out, he did another song called "Wake the White Wolf" and a heavy metal version of it that I was really quite fond of. And
that actually used some melodies from Witcher 2.
Did it? Yeah, cool. And I think I tried to sneak it onto Music of the Year last year, but for some reason I took it out of my final picks. So I'm rectifying that with Lady of Worlds, which, even without the context of having played the game, just watching the music video and seeing and hearing the way the vocals interact with each other, it's like Geralt and Ciri are singing a duet about each other. To me, like it sounds like very much like this. I mean, it's like an adopted daughter. Is that kind of how their relationship is?
Yeah, by the time of The Witcher 3.
Yeah, so it's like, and you kind of get that very like close, familial sense from the song. I think the male vocals suit it perfectly. It sounds
Yes.
honestly like Geralt could be singing this.
Well,
Sorry.
I keep almost cutting you off because I'm excited to talk about this, but continue.
No, and even though this isn't a song from the game, it totally works in the like. It sounds like that same kind of like Celtic.
Yes.
Like it perfectly suits The Witcher, and yeah, I absolutely love this track. So please, someone else discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, we have our interview with one of The Witcher 3's composers that all of you should go read, but he talks a lot about the styles that they used and how it's not necessarily in a Polish tradition of audio, but a lot of attention went into The Witcher 3 soundtrack in the musical traditions that it presents. And I mean, this one is using a lot of the same instrumentation that you see in the main soundtrack, and there's a lot of vocals in The Witcher 3 soundtrack, although not necessarily words, but just in terms of using the voice as an instrument. And I mean, this absolutely fits. I mean, this would accompany a boss battle really well. And I do think, I agree with you completely that it sort of focuses on the interplay between Ciri and Geralt, because it is sort of an adoptive-daughter relationship that they have, but it's also sort of one of mutual respect because they're both so strong.
Yeah.
You know, a good portion of The Witcher 3 is just focused on, like, how strong is Ciri now, what has happened to Ciri. And Geralt is obviously not a weakling, but that's what's so interesting about this, is that both of the sets of vocals are sort of equally powerful in different ways, which is how Geralt and Ciri are. They're both very powerful in different ways. So, especially once you get about 3.5 minutes in and you have the sort of back and forth of the male and female vocals, I mean, I'm 100% on board, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, the duet
But I
is
mean-
fantastic. I love it.
Just makes me wish I had my computer that can play The Witcher 3 here, because gosh, I want to finish that.
I actually hadn't heard. Maybe I should have. I haven't heard anything from this group before. But this song, I know. Isn't that
Send
wrong?
him the Commander Shepard song now, someone.
Okay.
Hey, that song is
I linked-
awesome too.
I linked the entire YouTube channel. Just listen to everything.
Okay, I'll look it up. No, this.
Good Mad Max.
I don't know what I'm gonna do when I pick like my songs for our segment of the show, because this is like, it's gonna be hard to top this one. I like all the songs we have today, but this is just I don't know. It was a big surprise to me, and I just love this song. What's
Yeah,
the
I mean-
There's a. We have really good terminology for music here. Like, I know one of our last episodes we described something as the farty sound. So my fun word for the day is the twangy sound in this song, because I can't really tell what kind of instrument it is.
The guitar?
Is it a guitar? I don't think it's a guitar, is it?
It sounds like acoustic guitar, like kind of tuned in a certain way.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was some like very like exotic something or other in here.
I think that's the thing. I think because it's just one guy who does this, and except for this one, he had a co-star to do the lyrics, and he does some of his videos where he shows the individual parts of recording, and he plays each part individually and then mixes it together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So so I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's some really clever audio trickery going on here. I'm not sure exactly because this is one of the videos that was set to gameplay footage, so that could very well be it, that it's a more conventional instrument that was like filtered or tuned in a specific way to make it sound more Witcher-y.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say that's exactly what it is. It's a filtered, or it's a modulated acoustic guitar. Or it might just be an acoustic guitar with multiple tracks playing it.
Yeah, that's very likely as well. I think sometimes I follow him on Twitter, and he'll sometimes tweet like about how many layers a certain song has. So that's always interesting to find out. Like, oh yeah, this says like 60 different audio layers or something.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much work this has to be.
But the end result is so worth it. I mean, everything I've heard from him is just so, it's perfectly fitting for the game, and it even, reflects the style of music used in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
It's good stuff.
Also good stuff is the song that sounds like 90s Dream Theater from Shining Resonance. Marcos, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but the track
Listen
itself...
to Dream Theater, it's such a good band.
No, I've heard great things about it.
I'm more of a Liquid Tension Experiment guy myself.
That's acceptable, I guess.
Yes. Kirisaku Ungeki, from what I understand, just watching these playthrough videos, I think it's a song that you encounter when you meet a bunch of enemies, or I guess a stronger battle. So that's why it has that sense of urgency and that very, I guess, passionate percussion to it. Kind of like a...
Yeah, that drum machine is going nuts. It's like the 32nd notes go into 64th notes. What on earth?
I liked this when I first heard it because I had no context for it. So once I hit track 15, it just like, oh, this is and then it got faster. I was like, oh, this is a very, very aggressive track. And when I finally found out what happens, I was like, yeah, man, that bass drum is just kicking it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I picked this, because this is a battle track, and actually it's a really good battle track.
No, you don't say. I thought it was like the second town in the game. No,
it's actually the romance music between the main characters.
Oh man, I want to see some pictures of those main characters.
Now I know why we didn't get this game like in the West, because that would be way too metal.
Yeah, that makes me like. Are the main characters Mad Max and Furiosa or something? To have that be their romance track? But anyway, I mean, I think it is super energetic and fun. Obviously, a battle track of some kind. Everything's super intense. The syncopated like guitar chords. It's like, yeah, this is tiptoeing the border of power metal. So, and it's super fun to listen to. I don't know a damn thing about any of the recent Shining games. So, is this technically in the Shining series, or is it just is Shining just happen to be in the title?
Yeah, I think it's tied to the series.
No,
Okay,
it is tied to the series. We're probably never gonna get this game.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any Shining game made in the past 15 years. But but no, it sounds super cool. Thanks for sharing.
So I actually thought it sounded familiar in terms of the composer's style, and it turns out I am correct, and that's because this composer, Hitoshi Fujima, has actually been featured on Wild Arms 5 and the Wild Arms Crossfire soundtrack. It's some of my favorite soundtracks from there. And I think also Suikoden. What the heck was the DS Suikoden called? It had the weird... Tierkreis, yeah. So yeah, I thought the style sounded familiar, and that's because it is. And it's awesome.
Oh yeah, the whole soundtrack's great. I mean, like, I wouldn't use this track to like define this whole soundtrack, because you'd be very misled. It's actually a very pleasant soundtrack, aside from the battle music that get you pumping.
Yeah, well, I know stylistically Sega has gone with a sort of a more mellow tone with some of the more recent Shining games. Hiroki Kikuta did Shining. I can't remember, a couple of years ago.
Aren't there like 10 of them in the 2000s? I
I
saw an art book that just had a bunch of Shining games I hadn't heard of. I really wasn't aware that the series had been continuing until sort of recently. But there
was a
seems
ton
to be
of
a bunch
Japan-only ones.
Yeah, I mean, they make a lot. And I mean, I played one of them. It was like a Valkyria Chronicles sort of rip-off. I mean, it was a good one. And I mean, I guess Sega made that too, so they weren't ripping off something they own. How can I steal something I own?
This Final Fantasy game is ripping off Final Fantasy.
Actually, the composer was also featured on Chaos Rings 3, so gosh.
Oh, wow.
Good on them. This
Altogether.
awesome track by a composer who evidently has an awesome set of credentials.
Yeah, he gets around, I guess. Or she?
He's probably a guy.
Okay.
Sorry, I got distracted. I was listening to that beginning part again. I love the beginning of this song.
Yeah, it's my favorite part, actually.
That sucker picks up.
Oh yeah, this is great stuff. I'm slowly making a list of everything I'm going to have to go get after we finish this Music of the Year podcast. It's my yearly penance for making other people have to go get new music.
Do you need me to send you some money?
So, before we spend another hour gushing over those 3 tracks, because it seems like everyone wants to, let's move on to... Oh gosh, there's only 3 blocks. We're almost at the end. No! We're not...
Quick, everyone, pick 3 more tracks and we'll be fine.
No, just let me do it. I have plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I do turn into a pumpkin at midnight, so we probably should get on with this.
It's like way past midnight, dude.
Yeah.
Time zones.
Time zones.
Bright and sunny here, baby. But I guess you could say that where you guys are, you're at the bottom of the night.
Wow.
Or that the sky is veiled in black, depending on what Peter picked.
Okay, so I had 2 tracks for this block, and we're only going with one of them, and you might hear the other one later. And the one I selected for the purposes of this discussion is Veiled in Black, which is the night battle theme from Final Fantasy 15 episode Duske, and hopefully the final game, because it's a really, really awesome song. And
I love the song so much, I seriously thought I had already picked it twice, and it turns out I hadn't. I'd picked something else. I seriously thought I had played this already, because this song I love so much, I was like, there's no way I didn't put this on the podcast. It didn't have a title back when I first fell in love with it, but now it does.
That's an awesome title, too.
It is.
Yep. So
sorry, I cut off your introduction again. I'm terrible today.
It's all good. It can wait till we discuss the track. We should probably ask Marcos what he picked.
What did Marcos pick?
I chose Battle of Tribulation from the Bravely Second End Layers soundtrack.
Now, this is really interesting because it's a different composer from the original Bravely Default, and I'm actually really curious, I was really curious before listening to the track, how's it going to be different? Or is
It's Rio is very different from Revo.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
surprising based on how you, because, that was a bad one, too.
I've actually listened to this whole soundtrack quite a bit, so I'll have more to comment afterwards. I don't want to slow us down here.
I thought about taking something from Bravely Second when I was picking things from this, but I didn't pick that.
But then you had a Bravely Second thought.
Wow. All right.
Is this music of the year or puns of the year?
Well, that's
can't it
not
be
making
both?
any pun of the year lists, so we're definitely in music of the
It's
year.
not ironic, it's just a coincidence.
Oh, man. Well,
Okay.
Mike, will you tell us what the next track is?
I will, because the song is called Will from Oreshika Tainted Bloodlines for the PS Vita.
Which is the game you have been extolling the virtues of for quite a while now.
Sort of. I think I'm one of the 25 people in the United States that bought it, but we can talk about that a little later. Oreshika Tainted Bloodlines came out in 2015.
Excellent. And our final block for you 3 gentlemen. Coming up, we have Veiled in Black, Battle of Tribulations, and Will.
春告げる薄桃色水鏡浮かぶ月も吹き渡る風が下がってゆく人の夢の儚さのように幾度も巡る季節の中二度と巡り会えぬ人を思うただ一度きりこの時の砂歌方に生まれ消えてゆく流した血も涙もいつしか遠い海たどり着いて新しい心つなぐよゆらり空へ登っては雲に雨になって大地の上降り注いで命与える捨て身の声つくづく惜しくもみじ葉も土に帰るそれぞれの命の色すべてはらりはらり白く塗る雪移ろいゆく季節を越えまだ見ぬどこかへと響く声遠い約束のかがり火は生まれ変わっても絶やさずに同じ花は咲かなくてもいつか目が合った実を結ばんと燃えるように夢見るように歌うように季節を巡る
I will forever associate Veiled in Black with me dying a lot because
Yes.
because I played episode Dusuke and I still wasn't I hadn't come to grips with the combat system and I hadn't leveled up much, and all of a sudden I got ambushed by soldiers at night and the battle's going on forever and I keep dying and then I keep getting revived and then I keep trying to figure out what I'm doing and then I kept dying again all while this song is playing. And so I kind of have that
dramatic
locked.
song.
I kind of have that locked in my memory of this is a song of harrowing nighttime escapes, and I just want to find a campground and go to sleep, but these soldiers keep pestering me. It's if this is any indication of what Final Fantasy 15's soundtrack is going to be like, then I think we're in for a real treat.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I like I said before, I'm sort of surprised we haven't played this. I must have just confused myself because I don't know how I didn't play this because this song is one of my favorite things to happen this year. Now that you've picked it, I don't have to.
Happy to be of service.
But what I love about it, among everything, is the piano is sort of the lead instrument here, and everything else is sort of following along with the piano, and it exchanges places with the violin a few times, you know, when you have breakdowns that are just the violin, but it's sort of, and you have the piano and the lead sort of exchanging, or the piano and the violin sort of exchanging as the lead instrument, and then the percussion is coming in and out, and then you have those two sequences in the middle where it sort of stops, and you have just that and it's just the violin, and then the percussion is like, and it all comes back. Oh, it's just dramatic and awesome, and it's like, it's undoubtedly Shimomura, but it is not her Kingdom Hearts sound. Her Kingdom Hearts sound comes up a lot in like the Mario role-playing games, and sort of, you know, it crops up here and there in her other projects, but I think she's definitely able to do a different sound than what appears in Kingdom Hearts. That sort of lighter or more, not that the Kingdom Hearts boss themes are not dramatic, but they're dramatic in sort of a different quality as this one. This one sort of has a regality to it that sounds like it belongs to Noctis. You know, I'm assuming Veiled in Black is either it's nighttime and Noctis is veiled in black, or I don't know. Everyone wears black in that game. I don't know who's who.
Regality is a good word to describe it.
But yeah, exactly. Like, this song is the theme of a displaced prince wandering around fighting stuff at night, which sounds a lot sillier when you say it out loud, but it's still a good song. I crushed you all with my words.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add because my experience was basically just the same as Peter's. Like, I remember jamming out to the song and loving the song. It was the one good thing about fighting at night was listening to this music as I died over and over again trying to fight Imperial soldiers and some random goblins that decided they wanted to eat my face. But
10,000 random goblins
Yeah.
decided to eat your face, you mean?
yeah. Kind of felt like it
Yeah, there's
after
something
a
about
while.
There was something about episode 2 Scape where just everything aggroes you and you at once.
Yes.
Especially at night, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nighttime was just like, I was like, I should not even go out at night. I should find a campground and make camp and just only be out during the day because I'm going to die at night.
I eventually played enough and fought enough, at least during the daytime, that I leveled up to the point where it was not a problem. But I was like that for a few hours. Like, when it would become nighttime, I was really, really careful about where I was walking. Because I did not want to get into combat at all at the beginning of the demo. It's like way too dangerous out there. So I don't mind that. I like that. I imagine we're gonna
which
have
I
that.
guess is what they were going for, I suppose.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be like that in the regular game too, where you get to a new area and you don't know what's out there, and then it's just even more dangerous at night. But that's cool. Oh, also, it's a really good song. I guess I was supposed to be talking about the music, huh?
Yes, it is a good song.
Yeah, once you can hear the song and not have just terror in your mind and focus on the fact that it's a really great battle theme, then it's a lot better.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty much most excited for Final Fantasy 15 for the soundtrack. Not that I'm not excited for the game and don't think it'll be very good and could be amazing, I don't know yet. But a new 4-disc Shimomura soundtrack with the production value and the amount of money that gets thrown into a Final Fantasy soundtrack is intoxicating, and it's going to be out so soon. This year, though, I mean.
We will
It's
see
like,
the game.
I was going to say, we don't know exactly when yet.
We will apparently see its final form in March. So
And get a release date. I'm guessing
Yeah.
the release
Dragon
date is going to
Quest
be
game.
summer.
Is their
Yeah.
final form gonna, like, are they all gonna have blonde hair?
I just think Tabata's gonna walk in and he's gonna rip his shirt off, and then his hair's gonna turn blue, and then they're gonna come up with a really dumb name for it, and then they're gonna make fun of that really dumb name when they turn the movie into an anime. And this is a Dragon Ball Super joke that's not going anywhere, so we should probably talk about the next.
Jeez. Wow.
I'm lost.
It simultaneously went nowhere, but also it went everywhere.
Dragon Ball Super is mostly an adaptation of the 2 recent movies. That's the joke, and it's kind of disappointing.
Is that the current show?
Yeah, the current show. It's
It's,
based.
well, it's a manga that's also being adapted into a show at the same time, but most people do seem to not be into it.
Yeah, which
Dragon
is a
Ball?
shame. Yeah, the new Dragon Ball.
You gotta have blue hair.
So Marcos has a song.
Yes, I do have a song. My song is Battle of Tribulations from Bravely Second Empire, and it is probably one of my favorite battle themes for this year. Probably for the reason that it sounds kind of like killer music or very psychotic music in the very beginning and throughout.
Yeah.
I was really thrown off when I first heard this on the soundtrack after hearing that like glass break, and it sounded like this very low, was it, I think electric bass or very low electric guitar. I can't really tell, but you just have that like dissonant strings in the high register. I'm like, well, it's like psycho music happening. I'm really curious on like where this game is going to go with it, and especially when they bring in the choir that starts singing like very dramatically, like some kind of haunting or like, I don't know. I feel like this game is weird. I have really seen nothing of this game. However, I feel like it's gonna be like, I don't want to say Halloween theme, but more of a, I guess.
Well, you dressed up all the time in the first one as well.
It's Costume Quest 3. I get it.
I understand the confusion.
Square Enix presents Costume Quest 3. I'd play that.
I would play that.
Halloween 3 Season of the Mask, starring Bravely Default.
Starring Tiz, Agnes, and Mike Myers.
And guy who likes to talk about sex a lot. Ring a bell.
Oh, ring a bell, yep.
What?
Hey, he was one of. At least he had a personality.
And at least he had a semi-cool twist about halfway through the game, too.
Yeah, that set him above
Did.
Tiz.
Well, Tiz had a doper, transform song when he went into trance mode or whatever you called it.
It is basically.
Tiz
like-
did have my
Yes.
favorite song for happy mode.
You are my hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or, yeah. Well, I mean, I liked Adia's song better, but Tiz's was good. I'm really excited for Bravely Second. I'm a bit of a stan of the first game, in spite of its many criticisms and justifiable, hang-ups that people have with that game. And I listened to most of the Bravely Second soundtrack when it came out. It's not the same as Bravely Default. It's a different composer. It's not Revo and Sound Horizon. It's a guy named Rio who's done he's in some kind of pop group and has done anime soundtracks before in the past, but I couldn't find a ton of stuff by him.
Oh wait, yeah, I have heard.
Supercell.
Yeah,
Of him.
Supercell.
Yeah, Supercell.
Supercell's his group. So I really wasn't aware of him or Supercell before he was announced to be the Bravely Second guy, and it's like Bravely Default is always this huge, rich, bold wall of sound, and Bravely Second's soundtrack seems scaled back in comparison. And Battle of Tribulations is one of sort of the bigger songs in that soundtrack, and it's good. I like it, but I sort of was looking for that Bravely Default sound as I listened to it, and it never really came. But it is a lot of cool music, and I am going to play the game and listen closely to the soundtrack for additional context. But I listened to it pretty thoroughly, but it wasn't one of my favorite soundtracks of 2015. Just to be a Debbie Downer for a minute.
The rock opera thing was kind of what made Bravely Default's soundtrack so endearing to me. And this, while I like this song, I think that once the chorus kicked in is where I kind of said to myself, okay, now I can see this as being like a Bravely game. But
Yeah, that's definitely where I started getting juiced as well. If you
but
will.
it also sounds more traditional JRPG, which I suppose is fitting given that the series' thing is kind of that we're doing classic Final Fantasy because Final Fantasy is off doing something else.
Do we call the series Bravely now, or?
I think that's its official. Like it's the Bravely's.
Barbly.
Murgur series.
But
We're all Warcraft Murlocs now. Awesome.
that's basically. It's not bad. It's actually quite a good song. I'm interested in Bravely Second. I was a little put off by the first game too, even though I enjoyed it overall. So I guess we'll see. That's kind of the vibe I got from this song. Is I was willing to give it a shot.
Oh, I'm so willing to give it a shot. I'm buying that day one. I'm a fanboy now. It's too late for me.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to give it a shot as well. I admit I'm not quite as high on the music I've listened to so far, and not necessarily to any fault of what I've heard. It's just that Revo has such a distinctive style in what was done with the first game that it's sort of hard to come after that no matter who you are.
He's a hard act to follow for sure.
Yeah, it's very different. But again, this is one of those situations where I think hearing it in context of the game will make it a little easier to sort of get what it's trying to do. And I definitely am looking forward to hearing it in the game. And many of the tracks I've heard are actually quite good too. This one wasn't one of my favorites I had heard. I do like when the main section sort of starts, but there are a lot of excellent battle themes in the game, and I think, it may not be as universally lauded as the first game's soundtrack was, but I definitely think there's plenty here to appreciate.
Yeah, I feel so bad. We all keep telling Marcos, like, yeah, I'm not really crazy about this song, and I'm not sure yet. I think it's interesting because the way you were describing, like, how this one has a new composer compared to the first one, and I'd never heard of this guy, like, it's exactly what so many of us said about Xenoblade Chronicles X. Because it was so different from all the composers of the first one, and I love the composers of the first one. And then the music is a totally different style, and a lot of us weren't sure about it, and I know I've definitely come around like completely on that game. So I'm thinking maybe we might feel that way here too, especially once we know context of some of the songs.
Well, I mean, sure, I understand that comparison, but I have listened to the entire album, and I can say for sure I don't like it as much as Bravely Default's soundtrack.
Okay.
But I mean, I do want to hear it. A lot of them could be enhanced via context, and I think that when you're judging like the soundtrack to a video game context, a lot of things can be enhanced by experience and context.
Sure.
But I still have to say I mean Bravely Default's one of my all-time favorite soundtracks. Not exaggerating. I'm a fanboy of that thing. But yeah, Bravely Second didn't hit me as hard, and for Bravely Default it was a similar thing where I heard the soundtrack for over a year before playing the game. But yeah, it's not quite the same. It's a lot of it's good. Battle of Tribulations is a really good song, but I was a little disappointed overall by the soundtrack.
Well, it's safe to say that you probably weren't disappointed by our last pick of the episode.
Right. Yeah, well, in a way, Oreshika is like the opposite of Bravely Second, because for Bravely Second, I was really anticipating it. It was a follow-up to one of my favorite games ever, but I hadn't even heard of Oreshika until after it had came out. In Japan, the game is actually Oreshika 2, because the first Oreshika is like I think a PS1 game that never left Japan, and then they made a Vita sequel to it like 15 years after the original. And so this Oreshika 2 is the one that Sony released in March, digital only, to no fanfare at all. So I saw it pop up in some reviews, and it seemed really cool, so I bought it and downloaded it on a whim. And man, this game is weird and interesting for a lot of reasons that I probably shouldn't go into in detail. And the music is very traditional Japanese, like it's taiko and shamisen and Japanese flute everywhere to be heard. And it's a little weird because in a way it's a management sim, since you're doing things sort of one day at a time and days pass, and then you can attack the evil dungeon on certain days if you want. But your characters only live about 15 to 20 days because of some curse. So you're always, you're breeding new characters and hiring new characters to be in your clan. But whenever the head of your clan dies, you get a credit sequence, and then Will plays during that. And it adds, because the song is this beautiful, sad credit song, it sort of adds gravitas to whenever your, presumably your best character of the past few hours falls in battle or dies of sickness. And the whole soundtrack is very cool and interesting, but that is, like, Will is the one song on it that I kept going back to because it's just so pretty, both the vocals and the instrumentation. And when I hear it, I think of the time I played in that game and the members of Clan Dogi that had fallen in battle over the several hours I played it.
Clan Dogi.
Yeah. I named my clan Clan Dogi with its colors blue and red.
Gee, I wonder what that could be a reference to.
But no, Oreshika is a cool game with a lot of interesting music, and I implore you to, do some research on it and see if it might be your cup of tea.
It's funny you mentioned that it's a credit song, because that was what I thought listening to it. Is that aside from just being a vocal theme, and that's kind of like a kind of a knee-jerk reaction, it sounded to me like the end credits of an episode, like to a TV series or something.
Yeah, well, in a way, that's right, because I think I mentioned before, whenever the head of your clan dies, you hear it, so I heard it probably 10 times in my one playthrough of the game.
Yeah, that would stick with you, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a good thing it's such a pretty song, if you're going to be hearing it a lot.
It's also a good thing that you can skip it by pressing the start button if you want, but yeah, I like that song.
Yeah, I do like the style. The vocals in particular are my favorite part of this one. You know, I can be hit or miss on vocals. I never tend to actually care what people are singing, with few exceptions, like when I need a bigger gun. But I agree, it's very credits feeling. It feels like the song you'd hear at the end of an episode of an anime. And, you know, based on your description, that sounds like it works. I'd definitely be interested to hear more of the other music. Is the rest of the soundtrack a little more, like, are there fast-paced tracks?
Yes.
Like, you know...
Yeah, the dungeon music and the boss music is pretty fast-paced, but like I said, it's the whole aesthetic of the game is like samurai clan, very traditional feudal Japanese. So there's a lot of like, you know, hot-blooded taiko drumming and things
sounds
of
like
that
Bushido
nature.
Blade.
Yeah, sure, sort of. It's honestly, the rest of the soundtrack gets a little bit repetitive since there's not a ton of diversity between the tracks whether you're at your clan's home or out in a dungeon. But
Interesting.
I use it as a podcasting game. Like when I listen to my huge backlog of podcasts, I'll play a game that where the music and audio isn't a key experience. Usually my podcast game is Diablo 3. But which has good music, but you know, I mean, you've heard them so many times I don't need to hear them again. So like the soundtrack as a whole is fine, and it really fits the aesthetic and vibe of the game, but the only song that really stood out was that credits song, and it was that, you know, would add a tragic element when one of your key characters died. And I mean, and again, like most characters die after 16 or 17 in-game days. So it happens.
It's a depressing lifespan.
No, yeah, the curse is weird. And your characters start out with terrible stats until they reach adolescence, which is like day 7 or so, and then they plateau, and then their stats start deteriorating around day 14 or 15 of their life until they die. It's an odd mechanic for sure, but it fits the theme of the game. Comparing it to an anime's end credits song is a very apt comparison, I think. And the vocals are really pretty in it.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the Music of the Year show and sharing your favorite picks from the year. I'm sure each of you will have more to feature in our written feature. Allow myself to introduce myself. Anyway. Pause.
We're all sleepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of you folks in the United States are sleepy, but we have just begun our Music of the Year celebration, and it will continue unabated with thousands more guests and thrills and chills and Mr. Game & Watch 9s all over the place. It's going to be insanity, and I'm speaking nonsense now, too. I've actually been awake for 2 days straight because of jet lag, so I'm starting to lose my bananas as well. But anyways, Mike, Marcos, Peter, thank you for being on Music of the Year. Thank you for your picks. They were all excellent. Ladies and gentlemen that are listening now, please continue doing so as we have even more coming up. I don't know what's coming next or how we're going to edit it, so I'm not going to say what's coming next. I'm just going to say stick around.
街のざわめき愛想笑いの憂鬱本音なんていつかどこか見えないふりだねだって不安なんてそんな言われなくても分かってる壊したい大事そうに抱えた強がりなんてでも素直になれない迷っても投げて 屈に上辺だけを映し出すこの未来をずっとぼやかしてる曖昧に繋がる世界は深い傷さえ嘲笑うどれくらい苦しめばいいのもう泣けばいいのまた答えが見えない教えて真実を君が知ってるならガラスみたいなことをかけらを探すのどんなに暗闇でも君が照らそうとするから蜃気楼みたいな望みを信じてしまう壊したい大事そうに掲げた強がりなんてでも素直になれない迷っても悩んでも君が求めるならせめてこの孤独を痛みをどれくらい苦しめばいいのもう泣けばいいのまた答えが見えない教えて真実を君が知ってるならガラスみたいなことをかけらを探すの孤独を壊して生まれ変わりたい
It's the one joke they have, and it's not funny the first time. He doesn't even look like a potato!
But he was hiding in a bunch of. Well, they weren't potatoes.
They were turnips or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put my head in the refrigerator sometimes to get food. It doesn't mean I've become a carrot.